Hey everyone, welcome to our virtual journey through the Bible lands. I'm your host, Patrick Hammock, and joining me, as always, is my friend John Moore, who's actually walked in the places we're about to go. You may have never been to these places, but thanks to Bible Passages 360, it feels like we're right there. So John, where are we at?
Actually, we're in the ancient city of Sardis. Of course, that's mentioned in Revelation chapter 3, and that city is about 50 miles east of Izmir in modern-day Turkey, one of the 7 churches that are mentioned in the book of Revelation. And it actually goes back to the days of the ancient empire of Lydia, a very, very wealthy empire, and then it became a part of the Roman Empire.
Nice. Okay, so what's this building right here?
Well, this is the ancient synagogue that actually dates to around the 3rd, 4th century, depending on kind of who you talk to, but probably 3rd century A.D. And even though that naturally is a couple of hundred years after the time that the book of Revelation is written, it's still pretty significant, as we'll talk about in just a moment. But yeah, it's one of the largest synagogues that has ever been discovered from the ancient world.
All right, so looking at this photo, if I don't know what I'm looking at, what are the specific details that I should be aware of about this place?
Okay, well, first of all, this is just the main hall that stretches out about 165 feet in length. It's about 45 feet tall based on the dimensions that they were able to reconstruct. It's the main hall where there would have been benches around the side and maybe places where people could have come and sit on the ground or in benches. But yeah, it's the main hall. There was a foyer area beyond those gates that you see. And if you kind of turn back around in the photo, you're also going to see basically the main place where the Torah was kept and where the Torah reading table would have been. You can look down, you can see that there are a lot of beautiful mosaics all around on the ground. Very, very beautiful, very, very elaborate.
Okay, so this building right here, why are we talking about it in a Bible passages video? What does this have to do with the Bible?
Great question. There was a view among historians that, simply a few centuries or a century or two after Christianity, that the Jewish influence began to really sort of die out in a lot of areas, that they didn't have as much of a significance in society. But that's not true. They were, in many places like this one at Sardis, obviously held a respected place in society among some cities. Think about how close this is to all of the buildings. Just on the other side of this building, there's the gymnasium, and on the other side, there are a lot of shops and buildings, and some of them have symbols of like Christian symbols and then Jewish symbols, and so it looked as though Christian merchants and Jewish merchants at times worked side by side. And so why am I saying all that? Because the Masoretes and the Masoretic texts and the copies of the Bible that we know continue to be handed down in the Mediterranean world were copied by Jewish scribes. And so the Old Testament is going to survive. And so they had a huge significance. But it also shows that there was a presence in and around the Mediterranean world of the Jewish people. So think about where Sardis is. It's in the Asia Minor area, quite a distance away from the mainland area of Palestine, where the Jews were from. And yet you have a highly huge, significant synagogue here. So we had to presume that there were Jews here during the time of Christ as a part of what we call the diaspora or the dispersion. So after the Babylonian captivity, or because of the Babylonian captivity and the Syrian captivity, there were many Jews that were dispersed all around the Mediterranean world, and there are synagogues there. And remember what the New Testament says, that when the Apostle Paul and other early Christians went on these missionary journeys, they went to the Jews first, and they went to the synagogues, and you find Paul going there. So if that's the case, and Luke tells us that they were going to these synagogues, we ought to have some connection to the past about there being synagogues. And even though this is a 3rd century AD synagogue, it still represents a sort of standing history of Jewish people that are there.